It's time for the show about the people and the places of the Carolinas with the occasional visitors. In addition to hosting the award-winning syndicated TV show Life in the Carolinas, Carl White writes a weekly syndicated column and now hosts this weekly show, the Life in the Carolinas podcast. Now you can hear the story about the stories. And now, here's your host, Carl White.
Andrew Palmer, great to see you, buddy.
How are you?
Doing great. It's been a while since we've formally sat down to chat. We've said hello socially, I guess, within the past year. How's life going?
It's going great. I can't complain. I'm staying really busy, a lot going on, and a lot of fun things happening.
I think we first met each other years ago. It seems like, I was going to say the 1915 with Ella Michelle's place, but it wasn't. It was at Talia's, and you were doing an event there, one of your fundraisers for a cause. What was that? Do you
remember?
It was
called Carols for Kids.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. How long ago was that?
That one was probably 2019. It may have been 18.
Right.
Yeah.
I was thinking it was around 5-6 years ago.
I started it back in 2010 when I moved back to Wilkes from Charlotte. So my band, Hot Vegas was the name of my band when I played in Charlotte. And we would usually do like a Christmas event in Charlotte. One year we played the 95.1 Christmas party, which was a really cool show. And we did the Tremont Music Hall Christmas party. And I would always take the money we got and we'd put it in a card, and then we'd go out to Walmart or somewhere and find a family and give it to them.
Oh,
and
nice. Just one family.
Yeah, we would just go find somebody and give it to them. And so when I moved back here, I was going to church with my grandma. She went to this church over on Curtis Bridge Road called Union United Methodist, and they had a pastor named Ed. And he was always doing a lot of stuff to help people. And I asked him, hey, could I do an event here and we'll give the money to people? And he said, sure. So I came up with this idea, Carols for Kids, and I had a little logo made. And I had some local musicians you may know. David Johnson played at the first one, and Eric Ellis played. Oh, yeah. And they were much more talented than me playing Christmas songs.
Well, they've been at it longer than you.
Yeah.
They've been alive, Andrew.
So they played, and the way I set it up then is they would do a couple songs, then the whole everybody there would sing a hymn out of the book, and then the next person, and then at the end we sang Silent Night, and we cut the lights down, and we passed around these boxes that looked like Christmas presents, and you could put your money in them, and we raised money, and I gave it to, I can't remember who the first one was, but we gave it to a local nonprofit, and I kept that going for 10 years, all the way up till 2019 was the 10th year, and we gave to a lot of different, organizations around Wilkes, and we ended up raising, somewhere between $10,000 and $20,000 over that 10-year period. And we would also take in non-perishable food items, toys, and new clothes. And it was just fun. And I would always usually just have my friends come and play that were musicians. And also in 2011, I had a friend that was going on a mission trip to Nicaragua, and she was trying to raise money for that to help her with her trip. So I wrote a few Christmas songs and recorded them myself in November, and I did 50 hand-signed little CDs I sold, and I gave her all the money. So that's how I started writing Christmas songs. And for Carols for Kids, so I probably have 10 or 12 Christmas songs I've written that I've not formally recorded, but I'm hoping to very soon.
Wait a minute. So is that where the title Carol? These are you would write a song. So you're adding your creativity to the massive collection of Christmas carols.
Right.
Oh,
so
love that. I see now.
Yeah. Originally, I can't remember if that first one I had Christmas songs or not. I think I wrote them that next year in 2011 for that little EP that I did for her. Right. But after that, at Christmas for several years, I would write a song or two, and they're good. I like them. Yeah, I don't know what else to say.
Well, it spoke to you. Well, let's talk about that for a moment, and talk about those influences. This time of the year, I talk with a lot of people, and they share their stories about growing up and what meant so much to them and things that they remember a lot. Your family certainly has been instrumental in your town, bringing joy to people and by making beautiful things, right? For all sorts of occasions. But talk about growing up in your home and what Christmas was like.
So in my home, I have a brother and a sister. I'm in the middle. My sister's younger. My brother's older. And my family was kind of small in a way because my dad's an only child. My mom grew up in the foster care system. And so I never really met my grandparents on that side. But my other grandparents, they ran the florist, were almost like second parents. They actually lived with us for a little while they renovated a house up the street from us when I was a kid. So they were always there. And that made Christmas really special because we were always together. And my grandparents were really sweet. My grandmother in particular spoiled us, particularly at Christmas. But,
What'd she do?
What didn't she do? Like, so she would always, not just at Christmas, but she would always cook Sunday meals after church, and we'd eat as a family. And on Christmas Eve and Christmas, she would cook things. But she also would, hide our Christmas presents. And then the night before Christmas, she would set them all out. Even some of the G.I. Joe bases, she would set them up. So when you'd wake up on Christmas, it was like Santa came, and it was really Mimi.
So you would actually she was actually set up some of your gifts, so you didn't have to open them all.
Right. Well, she, we would get a gift from Santa or something, and she would set it up. Right. Yeah, that's how she was, and she would hide them. But she was really sweet. We had this. I shared this memory the other night. At that time, when I was a kid, my family, my parents and not my grandma. She went to the other church I mentioned, but we went to the Presbyterian church, and they would have a. I think they call it just like a candlelight ceremony on Christmas Eve, and we would go to that. And it was always nice because at the end they would turn down the lights and have a candle and sing Silent Night, which is where I got the idea for Girls for Kids. Right. And they would do a communion, and I'll share a funny memory from that. I remember one time being a kid, and I was like, I want to go. And my parents, before they were like, oh, you're probably too young for that. And I kept wanting to go. So they're like, okay, you can go. So I go. We always got there late. So we were up in the balcony section. I go walking down, and I get there, and the pastor had broke a piece. It looked like a big loaf of sourdough bread and set it down, and you break off a piece and put it in the cup and eat it. And it was the same cup. Everybody dunked in the same cup. And I remember the cup was up high. So when I dumped my bread in there, I remember my fingers going down in the liquid. And when it came up, it was a blob. And I just remember thinking, I don't want to eat that. But I did. But that was special. And another thing that my family did that was unique was on Christmas Eve, my dad always cooked oyster stew, and my grandma would cook it sometimes too. But it's an odd thing. A lot of people don't eat oyster stew, but it's basically saute some onions in butter and put some milk in there, and then drop some oysters in there and eat it with crackers.
Sure. Well, I mean that's a recipe that goes back a long time. It's still certainly something that is done in certain regions on a regular basis, but it's certainly an old recipe. So your family was staying true to that. That makes sense because your grandmother done that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Let's talk a little bit about your life, and we're going to lean more heavily into Christmas because that's what we're focusing on right now. But talk about how music became an important part of Andrew's life.
So my dad, he played guitar, and some of my earliest memories of live music, if you'll call it that, would be my dad sitting with his guitar on the back porch, usually on Sundays, and singing songs. He would do James Taylor and other songs, and I really liked it. And so later, when I was 9, he started, teaching me how to play guitar. And there was a guy in my neighborhood, this was when I was 9, so it was probably 93, and he was good at guitar and skateboarding, and he also helped me a lot. But my grandma actually sang a lot, and she, she was always singing. She sang in the choir at church. When she was a kid, she would sing, and so that really influenced me. And
do you remember certain songs she would sing during the holidays?
During the holidays, I feel like she would sing a lot of traditional hymn type songs. Mm-hmm. We had a piano. It was an old upright piano kind of behind our couch at that time when I was a kid, and she could play the piano a little bit, and she would play the chords to this. I don't even know it. If you heard it, you would know it. It just goes do 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 do, and I would play that part.
Right. So
that was always nice.
Nice. And for you, music came alive how?
Well, I always loved music. My dad, he was a corporate guy, but on the side, he always loved music, and he just as a hobby, as long as I can remember, probably before I was born, he traded hi-fi stereo equipment. So he always had like super cool speakers and a receiver and a turntable growing up. And I would sometimes we would just sit and listen to music. And a lot of classic artists, I think of like Fleetwood Mac, Cat Stevens, Van Morrison, things like that. And in our house in North Wilkesboro that we moved into when I was a kid, he had a little office that he called his study, and he would work on paperwork. And then we had a room right beside it where I often would be out there playing, and that was our playroom. And you could hear him listen to this music, and it really influenced me. So I loved music. I always listened to it. It was a big part of my life from a young age, and I started writing songs. I think I wrote my first one when I was like 14, and then I played in like a little local band, and I wanted to keep playing in a band, and I couldn't find anybody to sing because initially I just wanted to be a guitar player. I wanted to be like Eric Clapton or Van Halen or something. And so I started writing songs and singing too because I didn't have a singer. And next thing you know, I felt more like a songwriter playing rhythm guitar than a guitar player. And then I started a band. It was between my my freshman and sophomore year of college. I went to UNC Asheville, then to Appalachian State, and I was wanting to do music business. And that summer, I started a little band, and within 2 weeks, we had 10 songs, and we went to Charlotte and recorded them with this guy and put out a little CD and started playing shows. And a small record label heard one of the songs and liked it and offered us a little contract, and we didn't take it because we thought we could get something better. And so I dropped out of college and started playing music, and that's where I went wrong. But that's what I did. So I just everything was do it yourself. Like I booked tours all the way up to Buffalo, New York, to Miami or South Florida, not particularly Miami.
So music became a prominent part of your life.
Yeah, that's all I did. And I worked at a music venue. I moved to the Charlotte, the band did, and we changed a few members around. But I worked at Tremont Music Hall, which was a music venue there, and it's been since torn down. Worked with Live Nation for some shows, which put on the big shows. And it was basically everything I did. I mean, I didn't know it at the time, but I was getting an education because I was booking these shows. I was learning about PR, marketing, graphic design because of albums, flyers, merchandise. I made sure we had a van, a trailer, a practice space. When we recorded, I found the best producers we could afford that would work with us, and I made sure we had pre-production demos. And so I did all these things that later in my life
would be beneficial
with what I'm doing today. And so that's what I did with music, and I did that really intensely from 2003 till 2008. And then I started having some health issues. At the time, I didn't know what it was, but I was dealing with anxiety. And if you don't know what that is, it's terrible. And I was like, I was like, I don't feel good. I can't tour feeling like this. I need to relax. And I think it came from in 2008. We were in the studio over 100 days. I did a double disc solo project of full length with the band, and we were touring. My grandfather got sick. I think it was a lot of factors. That's how I actually ended up back in Wilkes. Mm-hmm. I came here to at Christmas that year. I was like, I'm going to stay an extra week or two and see if I feel better. And it took a while for me to feel better. And the band actually had a lot of interest. We had major labels that were writing us. We had some management people that were interested. Some that were pretty big, and we had just recorded this new album in 2008 down in Florida that we hadn't released yet because we were shopping it around, and kind of had to put all that on hold because when I did feel better, all the guys that were in Charlotte had gotten day jobs, so we couldn't tour anymore, and it kind of really put a halt. So we started playing again, released the record, and started building momentum, but we're never quite able to get where we were just because everybody was more tied down. But that was kind of, my musical journey, and I still play. I put out a new record this year. It's the first one in 8 years, my third solo album. And so it's something I still continue to do, and I love it. I really, honestly, I like writing the songs. I like playing live, too.
Sure.
Playing live and writing songs. But really, the songwriting is my favorite part of it.
How's it different now? I mean, I think you've just said the songwriting is what you're leaning into. But getting back to music, having times where you're dealing with all your own self, all your own things going on. What was it? What was the thing that brought you back to actually playing, writing your own music, performing? I think we just heard how it stopped, But how did it start back up?
Well, the way it really stopped was this. I continued to make records. I put out a second solo album in 2015 that I had started recording towards the end of 2012. It just took a little longer. My buddy that's a producer was like, I'll work with you and I'll give you a good rate, but you got to work between projects. So it took a while. Right. But anyway, I put that record out, I think, in April or May of 2015. And at that time, there's an end to the story, but I had a young guy that I knew locally that grew up in the foster care system had approached me because he wanted me to train him how to box. Because when I moved back here, I moved in with my grandmother because my grandfather had passed away, and I cleaned her garage out and put all my boxing equipment there. I boxed on the side in Charlotte when I wasn't on tour, just for fun. And I tried to get him to go somewhere else to train, and he wanted me to do it. So I said, well, if you'll commit to, 5 days a week, I'll do it. So I started training this boxer. Well, the next thing I know, I had other people coming, and then before you know it, I had 2 classes of 4 people going. I trained a Golden Glove state champion in there. So I put that record out right as that happened, and it took so much of my time that it organically grew, and I felt like, hey, I could maybe make some money off this, and I'm having fun, I'm impacting people's lives. So I walked away from it, and I did the boxing gym, and I ended up having a public gym that had, hundreds of people come in there over a nearly 2-year period. And then I closed it at the end of 2018. 2 of the people that were helping me had other jobs, and it was just really hard to keep it steady. And the whole time I had in my mind, I was missing music, and I had it in the back of my mind. I wanted to do something. So as soon as it closed, I started writing songs again. And in 2019, I started playing some shows, like acoustic shows, and I were writing songs for an album. And ever since I moved back to Wilkes, I would always say, I'm going to do this acoustic type record because it would allow me to play more shows here. And then by the time I get to the studio, it's this polished retro 80s sounding rock album. That's just who I am. And so I started writing these songs and was getting ready to record and do stuff. And then the pandemic hit. And so it kind of made it so you weren't going to be playing any shows really. So I just kept writing, and I probably had 50 to 75 songs or parts of songs before I did the new album. And that's how I got back into it. But I guess music's one of those things, at least for me, it never really leaves you. You can walk away from it, you can stop playing guitar, you can pack up your pedal boards and your amps, but in the back of your mind there's this yearning that I got. It really
is that the lyrics to a song?
Maybe.
Tim, this sounds familiar, doesn't it, Tim? The story.
It does.
I did have a song on my band's last record. It was called Still Into Rock and Roll. Right. And it was kind of about that. And so for me, what makes me want to write songs are just, it comes usually from an emotion. Like there's something that's pushing me or pulling me, and I'm like, it's kind of an outlet that you want to share that with someone, and that's a lot of what I do. So my songs a lot of times are based on real situations, friends, relationships, people, and stuff like that. Sometimes they're concepts about, other things in life, the human condition, but a lot of times they start like that, but then kind of like how Hollywood takes a movie and is like, this is based on a true story. I glamorize it a bit, and I try to make it something that engages people in some way. And that's
but it's based upon some type of your own personal experience, though, it sounds like.
Yeah, right? It is, yeah.
Is this therapy for you?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I do. I really do, and I enjoy it, and I don't know. I often wonder, why do you want to write these songs? Is this some sort of vanity? But it's like you want to share, joy with the world. I try to keep my songs really positive. I don't write a lot of sad songs or anything. Mm-hmm. And I want to encourage people, and I want to lift people up through the music that I make. And I think it's really a reflection of who I am as a person. You see some artists doing albums now that have a vintage or a retro type sound, and I don't know, maybe they're like me, but when it comes to me, I don't do it that way because I'm trying to hit some demographic. I do it that way because that's the music I love. Right. I love John Hughes movies. I love old TV shows. I've seen every episode of Matlock, Magnum P.I. Right. I'm a big Baywatch fan. Miami Vice. Those things make me happy. They make me feel good. And my music I tell people that it's melodic pop rock with, classic feel and positive vibes. That's what I say.
Yeah, that's a mouthful, but I think I understand what you're saying. I do understand what you're saying. How does Christmas kind of help you encapsulate, bring together, if you will, music and family and all these things that you've been sharing that mean so much to you, including the highs and the lows, because the holiday season, unfortunately, it's one of those times that we get some of our great highs, but then also it's a sad time for a lot of people as well. There's a lot of, if you've lost someone or different complexities in life, who knows? I mean, things happen that make it a difficult time as well. So it sounds like you relate to all of those.
Yeah, I'm a big Christmas fan. I feel like it's the greatest time of year. I like that. I feel the way that people act at Christmas, that we all are, myself included. I feel like everybody's a little nicer. Everybody's a little more considerate, a little more patient. Even with all the hustle and bustle of things, it just seems different. And I wish the world were like that all the time. I actually have a song about that. And it just kind of plays into like my nature. I love people. I like helping people. I want to see good things for people. I want to encourage people. And it's just a good, happy time. I mean, I know that Christmas is hard for some people. Like, I know ladies that, like a lady in my neighborhood one time lost her husband. I was aware of that and wanted to make sure I spent time with her and just try to encourage people. But I'm one of those people, like, when bad things happen, I mean, I may be on the floor, but I'm getting up. And it's all I'm thinking about is how do I make it through this and put a smile on my face and stay positive. And and that's kind of how I do. And Christmas is just a joyous time for me. It's just a time to let others know how much you care about them and how much you love them. And that's what I think Christmas really means to me, because I try to do that all the time throughout the year, but at Christmas it's just a little more accepting.
Right. And it feels good, right?
It does.
It's like everybody's on the same journey. They're wanting to do that. So recently we saw you at Light Up Downtown in North Wilkesboro. We were filming that night for our Christmas special, and you were out doing your thing. You were a block captain, so you were helping the certain quadrant of the city go in peace and harmony for the Christmas celebration, Light Up Downtown, which brings me to an interesting point. Some years ago, someone called, a mutual friend, and says, "Did you hear what Andrew's doing?" I said, "Is he singing a song on the street? What is he doing?" They said, "No, he's seeking public office." How in the world did that happen? What has that journey been like for you in serving your fellow people?
It's been wild. I still can't even believe I got involved in that, to be honest with you. Growing up, I grew up in North Wilkesboro. Had someone said when I was a teenager, "Oh, one day you'll be a commissioner in the town of North Wilkesboro," I would have been like, "You're crazy, get out of here." So the way it happened was this. So when I was running the boxing gym back in 2017, I had been involved somewhere around that time. In 2017, for sure, I had a couple people come to me, and I think maybe they had political motives. They were like, they thought that I could win because I volunteered at the art gallery and I did things in the community, and I think they thought I could win, and so I get the vibe that they were trying to be like, "Oh, you should come," because they thought I could help them with whatever they had going on. And I didn't pay too much attention to stuff like that. I had been to some town meetings if it was something I cared about, but I was like, I never want to be involved in politics, because, like, to me, politics is kind of this divided thing in our country, and I've got great friends on both sides of it, and I just love people and want to get along. So I was like, no way, that's never going to happen. And I had the boxing gym. I was busy, and somewhere around that time they had like a branding type thing they did with the town with logos, and they asked me to be a part of it because I was a business owner in town. And I had a lot of experience with graphics. I mean, even my gym had all these really cool signs and posters and things that we had created. So I was happy to help with that. And when I was involved in it, they one of the parts I had to do basically like an interview survey type thing with one of the guys from the company that was helping facilitate that. And when I went in, I had filled out this info, and he interviewed me, and I asked him, I said, "What kind of feedback are you getting here?" And he's like, "Well, I'm getting some good feedback. It's good to hear from people like you that feel like have some ideas and things for the future for the area." But he's like, "I'm also concerned for people your age, because there's a lot of people I'm hearing say that they don't want things to change. They want this to be a retirement community. They don't really want to see growth." And he's like, "That really concerns me for people like your age." And it was kind of like my ears perked up a little bit, and I was like, man, that's not good. And my wife and I had started building a house in North Wilkesboro around this time. And when 2019 came around, there was an election coming up. I had a couple of people that were commissioners come to me and say, hey, you know, would you consider running? We read your answers for the survey and some of the stuff, and we think that a younger voice on the board could be helpful, and we'd like to have you in there. And I was like, I don't want to be involved in politics. It's just not something I'm interested in. I'm sorry. And one of them was like, well, I know you like to serve the community because I know you volunteer and stuff and you help with the kids at the gym. And they were like, it's really just service. It's really not political. It's nonpartisan races. And I was like, okay, well, still don't want to be involved. And then she said, but didn't you just build a house here with your wife you're about to move into? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, aren't you concerned about the future of the community and your home value and stuff?
Right.
And I was like, wow, I haven't thought about it like that. And so I prayed about it. I talked to my wife, talked to my family. I said, Dad, I decided I was going to do it. And I thought I could do it.
What did your family say?
My dad was like, why would you do that? My family's not real political. We don't do stuff like that. And he was like, is there anything I can do to stop you? And I was like, yeah, if you'll run, I won't. And then he's like, well, good luck. I'll vote for you. and so he was like, what are you going to do? And I said, I feel like I just have a real vision of like what we could be and all the possibilities. And I said, I want to run a campaign like nobody's ever ran here. And he's like, what do you mean? I said, well, I'm going to take all of my experience from promoting my band, and I'm going to use it to run a campaign. So I'm going to have cool graphics. I'm going to have nice pictures, all these things I learned in the music business. You know, it's important to have a good promo photo. It's important to have a nice logo, a nice slogan, nice colors. I mean, and one of the guys that helped me and has done graphics for me for my projects over the years was in my band. He understands that. Like, we tried to come up with colors that represented my personality and fonts. We wanted it to be friendly and positive, and that's what we tried to do with the campaign. And I went and I knocked the doors of all the people that voted in the last two elections. A couple weeks before the election in 2019, I saw somebody from the media on the street, and they were like, you know, you're a long shot to win. And I was like, well, I'm working like I'm a long shot. And I left it at that. But inside, I was like, I feel good about this because I've talked to hundreds of people and knocked their doors. And I was doing stuff online. And I did this whole campaign where I made this thing called I Heart North Wilkesboro. And we made a nice graphic for it. And it's a magnet that I mailed out. And it didn't have to have my campaign info on it because it wasn't really promoting my campaign. And I had 10 things everybody can do to help the town of North Wilkesboro on this little reminder card. And number 10 was vote. And then I told them how to go vote. And so I just...
And it didn't. And you weren't pushing vote for you. You were just
saying vote. Yeah.
Right.
And I wanted to not just... I wanted my campaign to not just... I wasn't just trying to win. It wasn't about that. I wanted to try to build civic pride here and get people to believe in the future and have hope. That's what I did. If
I'm not mistaken, someone had called me about your journey and said, Andrew's knocking on all the doors. And I think I called you. I said, Andrew, are you knocking? Are you talking to everybody that can vote? Are you talking? I think you said yes. I'm knocking. Do you remember that call?
Yeah, I do.
I don't remember what I said, but I remember I was fascinated. I said, Andrew, the guy sitting on the stool with a guitar. In my mind, that's what I saw, you know. And then I'm seeing you knocking on. So I in my mind, I saw you singing, and then I saw you boxing. And I'm like, what's he going to do? You going to sing a song? What are you going to do? So you did it your way, and you just talked to people, right?
I genuinely like people. And to me, knocking the doors was no different than being at the shopping malls that I had handed out flyers in over the years. And you hand out flyers at the mall until the security guards tell you to leave. So that's what I did. And I got to talk to people, and I like talking to people, and I had time to do it. I mean, because I had just closed my gym, and so the timing was good, and I got to go around and talk to people. And one thing that stood out to me about North Wilkesboro was that when I went to people's doors, a lot of times they would have little signs with like a positive message or a welcome mat or something, and people were so nice. I didn't have anybody that like slammed the door on me or was rude. There was one guy who gave me my little card back, but he was nice about it. He was like, don't know that we need that around here, bud. And I was like, thanks. But I was really impressed with just how kind people were. And
what did you learn? What did Andrew walk away from that experience being enriched by? How did that change your life?
It totally changed my life. This whole thing has changed my life, even though I still can't believe I'm in there. But the knocking the door specifically just... I've lived in this community my whole life, except for a few years in my 20s, but the kindness of the people here, I genuinely believe it's the kind of place where people want to see good things happen, you know. And if you need help, I think if you pull over on 421 and turn your hazard lights on, somebody's going to pull over and help you. I believe that about the people here, and I think it's the kind of place that it is. And it was very humbling, particularly with the election, because I won and I brought out more voters than I had ever seen anybody, and since I had moved back, brought out by a long shot, and it really humbled me. And I felt really driven to do my very best to like try to help make the town stronger and, you know, shake things up in a positive way. And I really tried. And it's weird because I still feel like the guy that ran the boxing gym and I'm in a band, I mean, I'm on the Wilkes Economic Development Corporation board. And I remember the first time I was sitting there with those guys, before I was even on the board, I was like, I can't believe these people would let me sit at this table. I've got a Tupac shirt in my closet at home, you know, like, but I don't know. I feel like that.
Some of them did too.
Probably so.
Yeah, sure.
I just feel like my life has not always turned out how I wanted. I had dreams and things I wanted to do, but for whatever reason, they don't turn out and I go down another path. But I've always been passionate about stuff, and I feel like, you know, maybe God's wanting me here to help or lead, and that's how I view it. So I just try to do my best in every situation where I'm put. And, you know.
Andrew, wouldn't you imagine that more people have had that experience than the people who have had everything being perfect?
Yeah.
You know, we try different things, we go different roads, and we end up, I mean, maybe Bob didn't have a boxing ring, or maybe he didn't sing, but maybe he had tried this business or that business, you know, something, a journey that it just didn't work out, but you keep on rolling,
yeah.
right? You keep on going.
I feel like everything that I did with my music and my boxing, I learned from it, and it helped me with where I'm at today, and all different aspects that I could tell you about. I mean, one thing is I'm not shy. I'm not afraid to say what's on my mind, and you know, I've always been confident. I've been in a lot of high-stress situations in the sense, like when you're standing on stage and there's a lot of people there, there's pressure that comes with that. But over time, you get used to it. When you step in a boxing ring, or even worse, in my opinion, when you take someone there that you've trained, that you care about, and they step in the ring, there's a lot of pressure with that. And case in point, like, you get used to it. But like, I stepped away from that for a few years, and earlier this year, the young man that was my best boxer, never lost any fights when he was with me. He contacted me and wanted to fight in this event, and I was like, okay, well, you know, we'll try to do it. I'll see if I've got time. And we ended up doing it. And the first time I took him to spar out of town, like where I had been away from it, my stomach was turned upside down. It was in a knot. I mean, it's very stressful.
You were for him.
For him, yeah.
Right.
And so I had to get in my mind to be like, wait, you can't allow it to happen. You got to get your headspace right and be there and do the right thing. So that really prepares me for some of the things that come across our table that can be contentious with the town, about, you know, how you stay calm and think, and you're watching the punches come, so to speak, so you can make them miss, and then you have to place the punches in the openings when you see them, and just all kinds of different things I learned from training boxers and being a boxer, you know, part-time for fun or whatever, and my music has just really helped me. And I think my service to the town has really come down to just a few things. I really feel like that I'm here to try to help people, and it's bigger than me. I'm here to be the voice of the people and the businesses, and to try to like move us in a better direction, and just do things that instill hope in the community and make people see how great this place is. And I believe we have so much to offer the world, and it's a special place. I've played pretty much every major city in the eastern U.S. with my band, and a lot of small towns, and Wilkes is a special place. And the people here are special, probably because we're kind of a mountain-type community. I feel like that there's this sense of I don't know, it's like pride or adventure or some sort of strength or something that people here have, and it's just a special place. And I've really I've wanted to go above and beyond. I know what people say about elected people because I say the same things. I want to be honest as I can, have integrity, and just be transparent. And I want to work. like when they have days, I've advocated that we do things like help, clean up the elementary schools and different things. I want to be out there. My favorite part of this job isn't sitting at the desk making decisions. Frankly, it stresses me out because I love people. I don't want anybody mad at me. And sometimes no matter what you do, that happens. I like being out there when we have days where we clean up downtown North Wilkesboro. We're pulling weeds and we're, just doing things like that, and I get to be out there.
You were decorating for Halloween. I saw you guys on the side of I was driving through town. I was on my way somewhere, and I saw you up on the hill with the people, the staff, I assume, from the town. You were putting up spiders, I think. Whatever it was, you were doing a town thing. I think, Andrew, what is so fascinating in your story, and Life in the Carolinas, we've always stayed out of politics because of the reason that I talk to everybody. So not everybody, but people on this side and that side. We don't not talk about civics, though. We do talk about how things operate. I do talk with governors. I do talk with people who have a passion to serve. But we're also mindful of the reality that most people who go into the area of public service, in whatever level it might be, they truly do, at least initially, go in because they care.
To kind of tie this in with Christmas, I feel like in some ways I really relate to Jimmy Stewart's character in It's a Wonderful Life. I feel like he had things he was wanting to do, but he kept getting pulled into doing other things that at times I think was a little jaded by it, but in the end,
I can see that. I can see that in your persona. I was like, well, that's a good tie-in, isn't it, Tim? I see that with Andrew. I said, look at that. You look at that. Okay, that's brilliant. Many of our conversations with friends have gone like this. We start talking about Christmas, and I think the spirit of Christmas, we've talked about the spirit of Christmas this year a lot, and what it is and what it may be, and everybody has their thoughts about those things. But the spirit of Christmas truly can be, for those who are seekers and believers and doers of it, it can be 12 months out of the year, right? It's always there. It's just at a certain time we bring out the trees and turn the lights on and buy each other gifts. We do that. But a lot of times the things that we remember most, they don't have anything to do with the gifts that were given or received. They have to do with the conversations and the memories, with your grandmother, with your family, and the people that you care about. And that's pretty darn special, isn't it, Andrew?
I think life is about relationships.
Yeah.
Building them and the ones that you have. And I have a lot of relationships with people. It's hard for me because I like to try to keep in touch with everybody. And I've got people from my music and people from my boxing. And, you might not see them for a few years, but when you do, you hit things right back off.
Yeah.
And
well, you just keep your phone with all their names and update it. And then you're driving down the road and think of somebody. You've gotten a call from me before. I just call you. You just popped into my head. I'm afraid not to respond when that happens because that might be the universe saying, call them now because if you'll forget 20 minutes from now. And I do.
Yeah.
And just kind of catch up with people. And that's what makes it the sweetness of life. Well, we are in the middle of the Christmas season. Oh my gosh, it's just everywhere around us now. And when you and I talked about you coming on the show, I asked if you had a Christmas song that you could share with us because I know you're a prolific writer. I did not know that you had written 10 Christmas songs, but have you picked one special for today?
Well, there's good things about all of them. The one that I had mentioned on the phone is Snow Angels, and I was going to do it because it's fun.
Great.
So I guess I'll do that one. Should I go ahead?
Absolutely.
All right. So I had a friend back about 10 years ago that her sister was an art major from App, and she had went to school to be an art teacher. And I don't think either one ended up doing that, but they were great artists. And I had just kind of met her at this time, and she's just a really fun person and kind of adventurous. And so I thought about her when I wrote this song, and it's just a fun song. It is not very deep or anything, but it's called Snow Angels. And, when you lay in the snow, you make the snow angels. That's what it's about. And it goes like this. my room, thinking of Christmas Day. I think of what we'll do, I think of what I'll say, of the artist that you are, of the artist we will be. Underneath the stars, together you and me. The snow falls down, down we lay on cold ground. It's there we'll create snow angels, snow angels, snow angels on Christmas Day. As we share what's in our hearts for all the world to see, the raising of our arms will take flight on angels' wings. We'll sing good tidings to the world, we'll set our spirits free. We'll vow to never be apart, forever you and me. As snow falls down, down we'll lay on cold ground. It's there we'll create snow angels, snow angels, snow angels on Christmas Day. Snow angels, snow angels, snow angels on Christmas Day. Snow angels, snow angels, snow angels on Christmas Day. That's all right.
Nice, nice. Merry Christmas, Andrew.
Merry Christmas. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the Life in the Carolinas podcast. If you enjoyed your time with us, please visit the show's website at lifeinthecarolinas.com. Join our mailing list, and we'll keep you updated every week on what we have coming up and other interesting things around the Carolinas. We value you as a podcast subscriber. We'll see you next week. And remember what Carl says, it's never a bad time for a good story.
Snow angels on Christmas Day.